Hello. So today we're going to go over some potential downtown interventions within the city of Portland, Oregon. So first, we're going to look at the city from some different levels in terms of its growth and population. So this is within the years of 2018 to 2023, given some of the most recent information we have from the Portland Housing Bureau. So there was a total increase in 3,328 people in this period, which equates to a 0.5% increase. Increase in total number of households, 22,602 households, which equates to 8.5%. And then the overall population growth concentration at this time was majorly in the neighborhoods of Central City, Northwest, South Portland, Markham Hill, and the Interstate Corridor. 2023, 6,300 people were counted on a single night in one winter night in that year as a total count of homeless individuals, and that was a 57% increase from 2019. Renters and homeowners. There's been a consistent rate of 53% homeowners in Portland over the past 5 years and 47% of renters out of the total city population. And then those percentages at the bottom count for uh, people who are renters. And then we've also seen a decreased rentership rate across the board for all different community groups, racial groups. Um, yeah. And then for the BIPOC community, uh, in Portland, we've seen a combined rate for homeownership that has increased from 36.6% in 2018 to 40.8% in 2023. So it has gone up a considerable amount. And then so BIPOC folks account for 40% of the total homeless population in Multnomah County, um, as recorded in 2023. So that is a huge overrepresentation compared to other demographic groups. And then across the board, there's been an increase in racial diversity in every neighborhood of Portland from 2018 to 2023. So putting this into SWOT analysis terms, and it's a little bit out of order, but we'll get to that in a second. We're going to start with strengths here, given some of the information I already told you, and just other outlying information. There's been a consistent average for addition of housing units per year in Portland, which sounds good, at first glance. And I've listed a couple of different acts and housing bonds that have increased revenue towards just affordable housing funds in the city. And then some weaknesses that we see across the board in Portland are a lack of close by access to hospitals um, for populations like the unhoused and people with different types of advanced stages of illnesses like coronary heart disease and things, compared to higher income folks. And then there's also been a consistent decrease in vacancy rates in housing. So, comparing that to what we've seen as like a strength for addition of housing units. And then, some outside threats that we see, I mean, general, any city, especially on the West Coast, might see is rising rents. This is a concern across the country given inflation and economic, just fluctuations. And then climate change events, is another one. You see places that are on that fault line, the San Andreas fault line, and being, near the Pacific Ocean, like the threat of, the big one, like tsunami. Another, more consistent potential threats that pertain to that West Coast climate that Portland has to think about. And then I'm going to get to opportunities on our next page. So some place-based intervention proposals that I was considering that the for Portland would be the expansion of medical clinics. Something a little bit more attainable, I think, would be a conversion of office or warehouse space in buildings that can be modified for use as affordable housing, and maybe units that are already like set up in a way that utilities costs and things like that would be, like they're sustainably built, like energy, bills could be kept to a minimum, things like that. And then inviting architecture in downtown spaces. You see this picture here is of an example of hostile architecture outside of a ministry in Portland. So areas like that, just changing that space to be a bit more inviting for pedestrians as well as homeless folks. And then some other proposals that I have put up here for that are more person-based include maybe an outboard mobility hub for homeless populations, like free or low-cost vocational training for getting people employed, especially prioritizing BIPOC individuals because of that, 40%, that overrepresentation that we're seeing of the homeless population overall, as well as possibly reentry programs for vulnerable populations that guarantee housing, because of that, potential threat we're seeing from lower vacancy rates, um, and just a rise in homelessness. And finally, identifying and addressing institutional barriers to unhoused individuals, again, who, observing their experience, excuse me, the experiences of BIPOC individuals within that system, principally. Um, yeah. Oh, thank you, for listening. And yeah. And these are some of my sources. Um, yeah.